Hi guys, it's Kelly Latavola here, and I am back with another video for Simon Says Stamp. Today we're going to be making kind of a collage summer love you kind of card. We're going to be using lots of products. So we're going to be using the circular lace stencil, the love die, the wonky hearts die, the poinsettia stamp, the summer flower stamp, and the love and quotes stamp set. So lots of old and new products. The first thing that I'm going to do is I want the back of my stencil to be sticky. These new stencils that Simon's comes out with are gorgeous, but they're super intricate. So I like to use the Elmer's spray adhesive. And so I just have like an old mailing box that I do it in. You do want to do it in a well-ventilated area, windows open, fans on, that kind of thing, because it is a little smelly. And if it's too sticky, I just kind of run my hands along the back of it, stick it to my palms a couple of times, just to make sure that it's not going to leave too much stick on my paper. So I just wanted something that was really kind of soft and almost like romantic in the background. And so the circular lace stencil was perfect. I put that on with some worn lipstick, Distress Oxide ink, because it is a chalk finish, so it's a bit softer. If you find that there's any stick left from your stencil, you can just clean that up with a white eraser. I'm just using a plain mechanical pencil. And then we are going to do Copic coloring. We're going to do no line Copic coloring. This is kind of terrifying for me. I don't do it a lot. The bold black outline is kind of my safety net, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp them in color similar to the Copics I'm going to be using. So I stamped the flower in the Rose Apple Simon ink, and then this one is Willow. This is, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming because that black outline is a security blanket, and no matter how you color it, that line's always going to be there to guide you. But no line coloring gives such a different look that it's worth giving it a try. And so this is what I found that kind of works for me to give my flowers some shape and some depth. And I'm hoping that maybe it'll work for some of you guys too. So I'm starting with just using the tip of my marker, doing a light feathering motion from the inside where there would be some darkness. Then for the outside, to add that detail, I'm going to be making a series of little triangles. So I'm trying to go with the shape of the flower, and because of these little stitched detail lines, it's really kind of easy. You can just follow along with those lines. If you feel like the lines are too close to each other, you don't have to do every line, because by the time we're done coloring, they really will just completely blend out. But that's kind of what I'm using for a guide. If there isn't any lines on the stamp set that you're using, you can look for indentations in the petals of your flowers, and those would be good areas to put the triangle in, because those already look like little dips in your petal. So just draw in the little triangles to accent those. So you'll notice that I'm not taking the color of the triangles all the way down to the center. I'm just doing the tips for right now. And the reason is to give myself a guide. Note number 2, when you're doing no line coloring, the way that your petals have shape, separation, so that you can see that there's different petals, is by the colors that you're using. So when I'm going through and I'm adding the shading at the base of the flowers, I'm making sure to leave a lighter edge for the petal that I want to be on top. And then I'm taking the darkest color right up against the line of the petal that I want to be on bottom. Here's a perfect example. You can see how light that is next to the petal, because I want that one to be on top. So for this one, it's really underneath 2 different petals. So there's definitely going to be some darkness there. And then I'm doing the same thing with each of these colors. I'm going back over the triangles. I'm not adding any more than what I did with my lightest color. I'm just going right back over the same areas. The reason for this is we're going to add to them later so that they blend better. And I'm sure some of you right now are thinking, Kelly, you're putting tiger stripes on this flower. What gives? But just hang with me, because by the end of it, it really will look like it has some detail and some shape like a flower, a real flower. So for the darkest color, I'm only putting it in the areas that I want to be the darkest on the base. So inside, the two inside petals definitely are going to get that shading. The one that is closest to us, that is folding out, I didn't put any of the darkest color on that. Because again, I'm trying to get that differentiation with my shading, but I did put the darkest color on all of the little triangles. So now that we're out to the darkest color, we're going to start back in, moving toward the lightest color. This time we're going to be carrying the color up a little bit higher, and we're going to be looking to put those strokes, those little flicks of color, kind of in between the tiger stripes that we've created. And now here's, we're going to start making those triangles bigger. So I'm just basically putting a little line of color, Don't be heavy-handed here. You want to use just the tip of your marker to make those triangles just a bit bigger. So on either side of the triangle, I'm adding just a line of color. Again, this still does not look great. It's okay. By the end, it will. So for the second to lightest color, I'm really carrying that up quite high. Careful to leave that highlight on the edges of the petals that I want to be on top of one another. And then I'm still adding that line. Now, when you're doing your triangles, you want to make sure that you're leaving yourself enough room in between them to make them bigger without running into each other. You need the highlight in between to give yourself that definition. With the lightest color, I'm going to go in from the edge, and here's where kind of the magic happens. It's going to blend all those colors together and make it look like a very detailed flower. So I'm flicking in from the outer edge this time because I don't want to pull up all of the darkness that I've put in the center. If you feel like you've lost the definition that you had, you can go back in, and I will later on. So typically with hibiscus, their stamen is actually the same color as the flower, but that wasn't working for me here. So I decided I was going to go in with some yellow orange, and even a little bit of brown for the darkest part to separate it from the flower. Once I was happy with the way that went, I went in with the darkest color that I used for the petals and just added that back into the areas that I really wanted to be very dark. So the center of the flower for me, the right-hand petal, I carried that line up a little bit higher. I felt like it was kind of mushy there. So anywhere you want that definition, you're going to put the lightest color. This also works for leaves, this little triangle trick. So I used the leaves from the poinsettia set because I felt like they were a good scale for the hibiscus, and I wanted something that was going to be just a little pop of color. So I'm going in with my lightest color again to lay down these little triangle shapes. I'm not putting a triangle shape everywhere. This is one of those instances where there aren't any lines. So I'm using the dips in the leaf to guide where my triangles are going to go. And I'm not even putting triangles at every dip. I'm just putting them, just some of them in to give myself a little bit of definition. And I'm doing the same thing that I did with the petals. So I'm working from my lightest color out to my darkest. Each time I'm going over each one of those triangles to give it some more depth. And then because of the way these leaves are drawn, I opted not to put my darkest colors everywhere, but to really kind of play up the bend in the leaves. So the part where it is comes up, I left lighter. The part where the line goes down, I went in with my darker colors and added them there. But I'm always adding the darker one to the triangle. For the darkest color, I didn't add this color to all of the triangles. Again, this is just another way to get some variation with your shading. Shading, I know, is very difficult for some people. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Sometimes we look at the completed project and think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. But when you break it down step by step, it's not only possible, it's plausible. Like you could definitely do this. It's just going to take, maybe a little bit of practice. No line coloring is, it is kind of very scary. And that's one of the reasons why I don't do it a lot. My comfort zone is with that black outline. So if your comfort zone is with that black outline, when you're practicing coloring, try an outline flower every now and again, or a no outline flower every now and again, just to see how that goes. So I went in with my second to lightest color and added some more of that, and then I'm filling the whole thing in with the lightest color, and I was pretty happy with how they came out. If no line coloring wasn't scary enough, try fussy cutting one of these things out. I'm not gonna lie, this was like terrifying. There's no line. So I was positive that I was gonna mess it up. I didn't. You won't either. So I fussy cut out my leaves and my flower. I was very happy with that. In the meantime, I also ran my love die and the smallest heart from the Wonky Hearts die set through my Big Shot, which is off screen. It's just not convenient to get it onto my workspace, so my apologies. I'm going to use that same rose apple color to stamp out the U heart. It was the first time that I stamped it, so I did have to stamp it a couple of times to kind of season up that stamp. I wanted the love to tie in, so I'm going in with an ink blender and the same rose apple die to dye that. You could also kind of swipe your ink pad on your white paper before you die cut it. I just thought that that would be a bigger mess if I did that. So I cut out the little U, I fussy cut that out as well, and then I just kind of felt like the design was a bit empty on the bottom since I had the heart or the flower on the top. So I'm going in with Twirling Tutu and the Rose Apple just to have some variation, and I'm using the solid heart stamps from the Love and Quotes set. I stamped them out. I felt like I needed some darker ones, so I'm just going to stamp right over top of some of those lighter ones, and it worked out totally fine. That kind of filled in the bottom. I'm going to use my Tombow Mono Multi Glue to go ahead and adhere the, which is now pink, love to the white love background. I just love this outline. I love the way that this die set works together. And then I'm going to start popping up my elements. So the reason that I'm not covering the entire back of this heart with Scotch foam adhesive is because I want to be able to slide my flower behind it. And again, I'm going to pop this one up, and I want to be able to put my leaves behind this. So I'm not coating the whole thing with foam. I have to be able to get behind there. The leaves were adhered flat with Tombow Mono Multi Glue, but I didn't add any adhesive to the edges so that they would kind of pop up on their own. And then the love die, I adhered, it was like in the top center of the heart because I needed room for the other little U heart. And then once I had that in place, I went ahead and just kind of snuck a little sliver of the Scotch foam tape underneath the L. And this isn't really to make sure that it's adhered. It's more for stability in mailing so that everything kind of stays the same level. For the U, I'm going to do it like two parts, kind of like the same way I did the love. I'm going to add Scotch foam tape, and that's what I'm checking to see what side it needs to go on. So I'm going to add that on one side, and then I'm going to add Tombow Mono Multi Glue on the other, because that part of the heart will overlap the white heart, and I want them all to be on the same level. So I've laid out some clear droplets here, but before I started adhering them, I wanted to add some clear Wink of Stella. When I went over this heart, I just was kind of just crazy and didn't really pay attention to the U part of it. I also added it to the flower and the love outline and some of the hearts in the background. But my U kind of got a little illegible. So I'm going in with a white gel pen to just clear that up and make sure that the U portion of the sentiment is very legible. Thank God for white gel pens. I use it to fix my mistakes all the time. And then I'm going to use glossy accents to adhere these clear droplets. The reason I use glossy accents is because it dries clear and you can still see straight through the clear droplets just like I would want to. The other thing that I did with the glossy accents was to make my U look like an enamel sticker. So I just coated the whole thing in the glossy accents, and that is pretty much the entire card. So really kind of soft and monochromatic, and I love the way that it came out. It isn't my typical style, but it's good to break out of your boundaries. So hopefully you're inspired to make something. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.